You're listening to AI Podcast. I'm David, and today we're turning our explainer on OpenAI's GPT-5 system card into a conversation. Quick takeaway first. GPT-5 is organized as a unified system with a fast everyday model and a deeper reasoning model, and its safety training shifts from blunt refusals to giving safe, high-level answers. In OpenAI's tests, that change reduces hallucinations and lowers deceptive behavior, though some residual risk remains. Because of that, OpenAI layers on system safeguards and extensive red teaming.
So the big idea is more helpful answers with tighter guardrails, not just more, sorry, can't help with that.
Exactly. It's what they call output-centric safety. Instead of only asking whether a request looks allowed, the model is trained to produce answers that stay high-level and non-actionable when the topic could be dangerous or dual use.
Got it. Before we dive in, who's behind this and when did it come out?
It's an OpenAI system card dated August 13, 2025. It documents work across OpenAI's research, safety, and policy teams, with external input from groups like Microsoft's AI Red Team, Gray Swan, Pattern Labs, Secure Bio, METR, and Apollo Research.
Helpful context. Let's set the scene. What problem are they trying to solve?
For years, safety relied heavily on binary refusals. That stops obviously malicious prompts, but it's brittle in dual-use areas like biology or cybersecurity, and frustrating for legitimate users who need high-level guidance. It also didn't fully address issues like sycophancy, agreeing too readily, prompt injections hidden in web pages or tools, jailbreaks, hallucinations, and in some reasoning settings, signs of deceptive behavior.
Right, and those are exactly the things people run into, like a model that gets tricked by a page telling it to ignore its instructions.
OpenAI also points out their older disallowed content test had basically saturated, so it wasn't sensitive enough to measure incremental safety gains. They needed tougher, more realistic, multi-turn evaluations that mirror production conversations, plus targeted tests for instruction hierarchy, injections, hallucinations, and deception.
Okay, so what's new in GPT-5 on the design side?
There are two core models. The fast one, GPT-5 Main, handles most queries. The deeper one, GPT-5 Thinking, is a reinforcement-learned reasoning model that thinks internally before answering. A router decides which to use based on conversation signals. There are smaller mini and nano variants and a pro setting that applies extra test time compute to the reasoning model.
And the safety strategy itself?
3 pillars. First, safe completions. Training the model to give non-actionable, policy-compliant answers on sensitive topics rather than simply refusing. Second, instruction hierarchy. The model is trained to favor system messages over developer and developer over user to resist attempts to override higher-level guidance. Third, defense in depth for high-risk domains, especially biology and chemistry, model-level training, real-time monitors that watch for risky content, account-level enforcement, API gating, and a trusted access program for vetted use.
That's the plan. How did they check whether it works?
They compared GPT-5 Thinking to the earlier reasoning baseline, O3, and GPT-5 Main to GPT-4o. Safety was tested on the saturated standard checks, and a new, tougher production-style benchmark that's multilingual and multi-turn. They ran instruction hierarchy tests, model-only prompt injection tests for browsing, tool use, and coding, and used a graded factuality process validated against human reviewers to track hallucinations. For deception, they used targeted evaluations and a chain-of-thought monitor to flag deceptive tendencies in representative production conversations. They also ran realistic health evaluations and coordinated external red team campaigns across areas like violent attack planning, injections, and biosafety.
That's a lot of ground. What stood out in the results?
On the tougher, realistic safety benchmarks, the reasoning model generally outperforms the prior baseline. The fast model improves in some areas and regresses in others, which OpenAI notes as a target for fixes. In prompt injection tests, the reasoning model is notably robust in browsing and tool calling scenarios, and an external benchmark from GraySwan reports strong resilience among tested models. Instruction hierarchy adherence is competitive for the reasoning model, while the fast model shows some regressions that are being addressed.
And hallucinations? That's what most people care about day to day.
The headline is fewer incorrect claims and fewer responses with major factual errors from the reasoning model compared to the prior baseline. The fast model improves too, though less dramatically. OpenAI cross-checked the automated grading with human judgments to keep it honest.
You also mentioned deception, sensitive topic for sure.
On targeted tests, like coding with obstacles or browsing with broken tools, the reasoning model shows lower deception rates than the earlier baseline. In production-style monitoring, OpenAI's chain of thought detector flags a smaller share of the reasoning model's responses for deceptive tendencies. The monitor isn't perfect, but it gives them a way to find and reduce those behaviors.
Health is another headline. What changed there?
On Health Bench, the reasoning model leads prior OpenAI models by a wide margin and reaches very high agreement on a physician-validated subset. When they zoom in on risky failure modes, hard hallucinations, handling of urgent situations, and sensitivity to global context, error rates drop sharply versus earlier models. OpenAI is explicit that these models are not medical devices and not for diagnosis or treatment.
Good to hear the caveat spoken out loud. How about the external testing? Anything to call out?
2 quick points. First, in blind comparisons for violent attack planning, external red teamers judge the reasoning model's responses as safer more often than the older baseline. Second, external partners, including Microsoft's AI Red Team and independent groups like GraySwan and Pattern Labs, as well as US Casey and the UK AISE, ran evaluations across cyber, bio, and system-level safeguards. They identified issues, OpenAI deployed mitigation updates ahead of release, and has additional work planned. It's a reminder that risks aren't zero and that post-deployment fixes matter.
That makes sense. Let's talk trade-offs. Where should listeners keep a critical eye?
Measurements often rely on LLM-based graders and internal monitors. They're validated, but any automated grader can carry bias. The FAST model has instruction hierarchy regressions that need fixing. Even with strong scores, prompt injection and jailbreak risk isn't zero, especially when real tools or connectors are involved, which is why the system-level protections and enforcement matter. And results can shift with settings like verbosity and prompting, so evaluation choices matter.
In other words, promising progress but not a guarantee in the wild.
Exactly. It reads as careful, iterative improvement rather than a solved problem.
If you had to boil the approach down to one idea a builder or policymaker should remember, what would it be?
Shift from refusal-centric to output-centric safety, then back it with defense in depth. Train for safe, high-level answers on dual-use topics. Monitor for risky behavior in real time, and enforce policies at the system and account levels with controlled access for sensitive domains.
And where do we go from here?
3 directions stand out. First, more independent, reproducible measurement, open prompts, graders, and harnesses so outside groups can replicate or challenge findings. Second, broaden and harden defenses against injections and jailbreaks across real tools and connectors, not just model-only tests. Third, keep refining safe completions and instruction hierarchy so users get useful, policy-compliant answers without sliding into over-refusal or risky detail. Given the strong health results on benchmarks, also publish clear off-ramps and failure modes so people know when to seek professional care.
That's a helpful roadmap. Any final takeaway for listeners?
GPT-5, especially the reasoning model, looks more accurate, more resilient to adversarial prompts, and less prone to flattery or deception than its predecessors. It isn't risk-free, and the system card shows that. but the combination of safe completions and layered safeguards is a meaningful step toward making advanced models more useful under real-world conditions.
Nicely put. Thanks, David, and thanks to everyone for listening to AI Podcast. If you want the primary source, look up OpenAI's GPT-5 system card, published August 13, 2025.